seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Here we go. The Bhoycie bus is back. Thursday night. I'm a bit nervous. It's the first time we've had a non-Celtic fan on the bus. What's going on here? Jonny Glen joins us, and Jonny is someone who I got on with very well 10 years ago, particularly because he made the best cocktail in Bridge of Allen, and I used to enjoy a cocktail or two back in the day. When I wasn't in my own pub, Jonny was serving the drinks in it was the Queen's Hotel. Adamo, was it called?
That's right, aye. We call it the Queen's, mate. We call it the Queen's.
How are you doing, Jonny? Good to have you on, mate.
I'm fantastic, mate. It's good to see you too. How are you getting on?
I'm jamming, my man, jamming. And this is one I was really looking forward to now. Never want to miss an opportunity. Obviously, I still follow Jonny on Twitter all these years later, and the big man's posting about being at some convention, Ange Postecoglou speaking. I jumped right in there and I had to get in touch and take advantage of the situation. Just so you know, don't worry, when I said Jonny's a non-Celtic fan, it doesn't mean he supports the other side before people get their knickers in a twist. It's Motherwell, isn't it, if my memory serves me right?
It is, mate. Aye, big Motherwell fan. So, Motherwell's my team.
Cool, man. Cool. Right, okay. So, you have got the inside track now. It was only a week ago. Jonny was at the International Coaches Convention held at Lennoxtown, then another half at Celtic Park, I believe, on both the days. I'll let you explain what it was all about. So, Jonny, tell us about the convention, how the 2 days you were there. You were there the Thursday, Friday, I believe. Tell us how those days were sort of scheduled, and tell us a bit about why you were there as well.
So, in one of my jobs, I'm a coach for Dundee FC for their academy. So I've been there for 8 years now. Really enjoy it. So as part of it's good, mate. So as part of our accreditation as coaches, we need to do CPD hours. I saw this one. I need to admit, even as a neutral, I've been really impressed with Ange Postecoglou and Celtic and the style of play they've put in. So I thought it's a no-brainer. Go to that. I live in Glasgow now, so it was really, really good. I was very impressed. So we spent time with the first team, which was great. Saw the B team, saw the academy team, saw the women's team, saw the analyst team, sports science over the Thursday, Friday. So It was fantastic. Yeah, really good.
brilliant experience that would have been. It doesn't matter if you're a Celtic fan or whoever you support. I think
No,
just
absolutely
seeing,
not.
you've got to take those sort of opportunities when they come up. And like you say, it's something that you've been doing for so long now. It's only going to further enhance your potential in the field of football as well, mate. So brilliant experience to get to do it. Now, we're going to do things as normal on the bus. We're going to do things a bit back to front, okay?
Okay.
So you attended the Thursday and the Friday. We're going to get Jonny to talk us through the Friday before the Thursday, because that's the sort of... you can hear that wee drum roll I'm doing there. That is because obviously we want to end the show talking about the main man himself, Mr. Postecoglou. So we're going to build you up, We bit of foreplay, ladies and gentlemen, before we get up to Ange Postecoglou. And that will begin with Jonny telling us about the Friday, because Friday was spent, I believe, with the women's team as well as the B team as well.
Yeah, so it was the women's team, then the B team, and then the under-15s, as well as sports science presentation. And we saw a wee bit about Celtic's link up with St Ninian School. So those were the main things we did on the Friday, mate. What would you like to discuss first?
Well, obviously, Fran Alonso last year, I think he captured the imagination of a lot of the Celtic support last season. Now, Fran Alonso was someone who I think got a lot of fans doing that crossover into women's football, sort of taking it a lot more seriously last year. And I know it's something that should be getting promoted more, particularly maybe even on the bus. I've got to hold up on that. But certainly last year, it felt like more fans than ever were sort of beginning to buy into the Celtic women's team than before. Fran Alonso, I think, was, a big part of that. Albeit he's not a woman, funnily enough, ironically. But I think his character and the way he just sort of had that va-va-voom, and he was the only one maybe at Celtic last season that had that va-va-voom when you consider the men's team sort of trials and tribulations. So what was he like as a character? And obviously the most important question, does he dress better than me in real life?
Does he dress better than you? I don't know about that, mate. I don't know about that. He was very charismatic. He was very good. You can see he's very clear on how he wants people to play for him.
Yep.
His system is similar to the first team, but obviously women's football, the physical demands are very different, as are the technical demands. So that it's not that they're technically any less good, but there are certain physical things that are slightly different in the women's game and the men's game. So they play a very good style of football. We watched their training. He was very good with all the coaches that were there. So very technical, very tactical as well. The press, very intense. And then the end of it, we watched a game. I will say they had a few players missing because it was their international week.
Of course.
So we maybe didn't see their full complement of the squad, but no, they were very, very good, very technically very good. And there were a few of the younger ladies coming through as well who were really good to watch. And, you probably keep an eye out for a few years down the line.
No worries at all. Was there anyone in particular who caught your eye that we should be jotting down right now, Jonny, just to put you right in the spot?
Yes, you know something, and you're going to make me look daft here. I can't remember the names. I had them wrong. I had a wee notepad, mate. I should have brought it out. I'm just back from a Chinese dinner, as I was saying before I came on. But there was a left winger, and she was absolutely fantastic. She kept cutting in and out. Was beating people for fun. She was one of the ones who would normally be in the first team, but obviously wasn't selected for international duty.
Right.
But she was by far the best player on the pitch. She was really, really tricky. Set up a couple of goals. I think she even scored one as well. So yeah, she stood out like a sore thumb in a good way.
How vocal was Alonso? Because I know his demeanour when he's touchline during the matches. I mean, you were laughing last season at times because obviously, with the COVID and stuff, there was no crowds, and you could just hear him as a constant, literally almost trying to play every ball, by like shouting, "Go there, go there!" Like you could hear it, but he just had a real enthusiasm. Is he like that just day to day in training as well?
I think seeing the training, it was quite vocal, and the coaching staff are quite animated, not in a bad way. And the thing is, a lot of what I do at uni now is look at coaching behaviour.
Mhm.
So I love all this stuff. I love looking at it and analysing everyone else. In the game, it was a training game. It was pretty relaxed, if I'm honest, and I thought that was a good thing. You want to let players make their own mistakes and learn from it, particularly in training. So, no, I thought he had a good manner for working with the women's team, to be honest, or working with any team really.
Yeah, I mean, he was a bold appointment when they got him because he'd been at Southampton. I think he'd been with Southampton's under 18s. I think it had been before that.
I think he was assistant manager at Southampton.
Was he?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was assistant manager to Pochettino at Southampton.
Wow,
I might be wrong, but I thought that's what he did.
It's a bit of a coup, but it's cool to know that there's obviously two sides to him, and he knows when to turn it on and be that sort of motivational character. But at the same time, the trainee can have that more relaxed demeanour. I was lucky enough to speak to him once. I was at one of those fan press conference things. I vowed never to do it again. It really wasn't my style. But he was so sound that he did seem to have time for people. So that's class. Now, moving on to the B team that you would have seen as well on, the Friday. Try to get the days right there.
Yeah.
On the Friday now. They are having a relatively successful season, albeit not a great result last time out. Bearing in mind, though, you'd seen the first team the day before. Now, without giving too much away about the first team, are the B team, though, are they set up now for like this seamless transition into being able to play the, Ange ball, if you want to call it that, or whatever? Or do they play with their own identity? Or do you feel that Celtic are now trying, maybe if they've got a focus on, whether it be the youth players trying to get more players integrated in it, that it benefits them to have the team there for the B team set up in a similar way to the first team, so that jump just slightly gets, the gap between that and the first team's trying to get shortened a wee bit?
It's a good question, mate. And I think, I know that I know Darren O'Dea from Dundee. He did a bit of coaching at Dundee. Obviously played for Dundee for a bit, and he was good. He's a really good guy. In the presentation with Tommy McIntyre, they both talked about it being that transition to the first team. They showed out what they would train every week. I obviously don't want to share too much. I would say this, on the Thursday, we saw Celtic first team 2 days before a match. So the training was intense. I know you'll touch on that more later. On the Friday, we saw the B team and they had 1 day before the match. So their training you wouldn't train at that intensity before a match as the first team did.
Right.
But, all the talk and all the presentation, and we know the fitness work that they do every day, or they're in the gym multiple times a week. It's quite clear that there is a transition. The formation, the style of play that they're trying to implement, is definitely aimed at getting guys into the first team. That's the aim.
I think it's so important, though. It's not just for Celtic. I mean, you're at Dundee right now, and it's important that you get players from the academy integrated into that first team. Firstly, we operate in a country where the TV deal, is going to be beaten, later on in October for Celtic by competing in a friendly tournament in Australia. They're going to earn double the TV money for the year. Now you think of these other clubs that don't have 50 or 1,000 season ticket holders to boast about. These clubs have to generate cash by player trading. It's that simple. Now, it would be brilliant to have the other SPFL clubs being able to buy 500 grand players and sell them for 2.5 million. But the reality is, none of them seem to have much of a transfer budget, if any, at all, Johnny. How important is it, though? Not just for the smaller clubs, but even Celtic, because Celtic right now financially still operate on a completely different playing field from their rivals and not their rivals, from the clubs that they want to aspire to be competing with in the likes of the Champions League. The only way Celtic can generate even a fraction of that sort of money is, albeit qualification for the Champions League is essential. But player trading is so important now. While Celtic will be able to every now and then sign an Odsonne Edouard for 9 million, sell him for 18, realistically, history tells you Celtic don't spend crazy money on transfer fees. In fact, Celtic still spend in 2022 the same sort of money they were in the late 90s. That's crazy, the amount of gap in time. But that shows then that there must be a focus on, okay, the cheap players that you sell for a profit like a Wanyama, 900 grand, selling for 11 million, amazing. But also, it tells you how important is it to get guys from the academy through. Now, you're obviously seeing this firsthand on a day-to-day basis at youth level at Dundee, but it just goes to show you as well, even at a club like Celtic, Johnny, do you know what I mean? This has to be taken just as seriously for us, because in Scottish football, this is such an important way to hopefully, bring on the next Kieran Tierney and make £25 million, for example.
Mate, it's hugely important. Like, I've been lucky enough to be at a few academies. Was quite lucky to go and visit Benfica's academy as part of a coaching badge that I was doing a few years ago. And see, when you look at the amount of money they've generated for their first team from academy players, it's insane. You're talking about €800 million in the last 10 years. You're talking guys like David Luiz, Bernardo Silva, Cancelo, Renato Sanchez. So Celtic spoke openly about they're trying to develop guys that can compete at Champions League level. And if they play first team for 10 years, then there's value in that anyway.
Sure.
But if you're able to sell someone like, Tierney went for what, 25, 30 million, something like that?
£25 million. We'd expect there to be
25.
some sort of release clause on that as well. You sell-on clause, sorry. Like
Right.
10%.
So, for example, if Arsenal sold Kieran Tierney now, what would they go for? Between me and you, who do you think?
60 million pounds?
I'd say in the region of between 45 and 60 million pounds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Easy. Right? So there's definitely room for Scottish clubs, and even the bigger clubs like Celtic and Rangers. Sorry, I shouldn't say that word in this podcast.
You're all right, mate.
Even the bigger clubs to be producing their homegrown players.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely, it's hugely important. Not only will it benefit the club financially, it's going to benefit the first team, because if you're able to sell a guy for 30, 40, 50 million, and that guy's cost you 1 million tops to bring through 10 years of coaching and stuff, it's a no-brainer, and you can invest that back into the team.
Totally. And I think that is such an important thing. Did Celtic at any point, Johnny, give any inclination to how satisfied they'd been with their academy in years gone by? And did they give any sort of inclination as to, I know you've just touched on there, they want to have guys maybe based on the Benfica model, like you're saying, that they can actually get to being Champions League quality, and then like a Tierney, you're selling them for £30 million straight from your academy, or hopefully, keeping them all together and create another Lisbon Lions. Wouldn't that be something else? But I think realistically, obviously, football's business, business is football, whatever way you want to look at it now. And it's likely that, if we were to have someone who could cut it in the Champions League from our academy, we'd hold on to them for 2 to 3 years before unfortunately they would part ways, but hopefully for a massive profit for the club. I feel Celtic at times get a wee bit tight for the academy products that they've produced. I think there's actually a decent number, if not unbelievable amount of players they've produced. I think that they have certainly still, even in the starting lineup last season, or particularly in our last trophy-laden season, was James Forrest and Callum McGregor, just 2 examples right there off the bat. I mean, those guys at any stage during their Celtic career, I think could have left for an 8-figure sum.
Yeah, I think an 8-figure. Aye, so
like 10 million bucks.
Aye. Sorry, I was thinking. I thought you were. I get my maths wrong there, mate. I thought you were talking like 100 million. I was like,
no.
Aye, absolutely. I think all these clubs have got to be trying to do that, and Celtic have produced a load of guys that have gone on to play. Okay, maybe they didn't play a number of massive games for Celtic, but they've gone on and produced at a good level. Like, I'm a Motherwell fan. Spoke about, for a good example of that is someone like Tony Watt, right?
Yeah.
So Tony Watt had that goal against Barcelona, and then had a bit of a dip, you could say. But to be fair to him, he's still a cracking football player. Yep. He's still playing at a good level. I think all clubs in Scotland need to look at it, and I think they do, to be fair. like, I've been working in youth football now since 2011, and I would say in that time the standard has increased greatly, and I think
Really?
that we're now 100%, and
Brilliant.
now we're 100%. Coaching's better, facilities are better, the games programme's better. Clubs are taking it more seriously, because beforehand it would just be a case of getting older senior pros in. I'm not knocking older senior pros. There's obviously a reason for that, but clubs know that they need to invest in the future by getting good coaches, getting good pitches, good facilities, stuff like that, and that's how you're going to get these guys in the first team. That's why you're seeing the Scottish national team, for example, just now. Sorry, I know it's a Celtic podcast, but there's a lot of Celtic players in that first team.
Aye.
You know, that team, you go back, I mean, we remember the Bertie Vogts eras, and you know, you had a guy like Walter Smith who got the best out of a fairly average group.
Yep.
Now this team, it's hard to pick the midfield.
Yeah.
You've got so many really good midfielders. You've got so many left backs. How many good left backs do we have, man? It's crazy.
I know.
So there's guys that, I mean, I think Aaron Hickey initially started at Celtic.
Hickey, Robertson, and Tierney all started at Celtic.
Feel bad for Aaron Hickey. How are you going to cope with Robertson and Tierney? I mean, these guys are doing great. So even if they don't go and play for Celtic, it doesn't mean they're bad players.
They go on to have a career elsewhere.
And you know, people think success is, and sorry, I know this is maybe going off.
No, you're fine.
People think success is this just straight line, and it's not. You know, for people to be successful, like Tony Ralston's a great example. Tony Ralston's had to go out, get his confidence knocked a wee bit, and then come back, and now so success is often like that.
Yes,
there's peaks and troughs, and I think you've got to back the young players, give them opportunities to grow, and give them the coaching and create that environment. And that was one of the things that, you know, I'm involved in a lot in my job, but also Celtic spoke about as well. So I definitely think
the environment.
100%. I think the country as a whole is moving in the right direction. There's a lot of people now who have got great intentions as coaches, and I think our methods and our facilities are catching up as well with other countries.
I know. I think you're absolutely right. I think, you know, you definitely have seen when Celtic have invested in the training ground and things, and then even the first team pitch. I think Rodgers was adamant that we had to go to a hybrid pitch at Celtic Park, purely on the basis that is the best surface for the type of football we want to play. Celtic both ended up investing over £1 million just on the pitch. And I think the thing is, this investment pays off. These sort of investments are, I think you're right, Johnny. See, when I was growing up, Dundee, prime example. Dundee spent any money they did have and money they didn't have on getting names for the back of kids' jerseys, such as Ravanelli, Craig Burley, and spent out with their means on foreign imports. Every club has them in the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, I can remember like Stefan Adam at Hearts. He would have been on stupid money. There's like Freddie Dandela. So many examples of players, foreign players, Johnny, you know what I mean, that were coming in. And yeah, they might have been of a decent standard, but see if you're having to pay all your profits on these sort of foreign imports who, how invested are they in doing well for your club? I don't know. Are they there for the buck? You're not even seeing results take a huge upturn, whilst all your profits are going out the door and your club stood still.
Or in the case of Motherwell, your club went backwards in that time. I mean, I was there. I was there when we were paying. Sorry, I was there. I mean, I was there as a fan. I'm only 32. I was there as a fan when they were paying huge amounts of money for good players, by the way, for guys like Don Goodman, John Spencer, Andy Gorham, who they were all cracking, right?
Yeah.
But then the season after that, we were humped. And the only saving grace about that season was your guys that came through, you James McFadden, David Clarkson, Stevie Hamill. And those guys went on to be brilliant for us. But they wouldn't have had their chance. Well, they might have, right? But they probably wouldn't have had their chance had we still had guys that were on 10 grand a week. 10 grand a week at Motherwell in 1999, 2000.
It's wild,
No wonder we almost went to the tubes. We get saved by Falkirk Stadium not being big enough.
That's right. That's right.
Aye.
Because 2 years that didn't get up because the Brockville didn't have 12,000 seats. Why you would need 12,000 seats for why you would need 12,000 seats for a stadium that's never going to have 12,000 fans in it, I will never know. But yeah, I just think a lot of the money, I think Scottish football, the attitude does seem to change. It does seem to be about investing in the future. And it's good that that's happening right from our biggest clubs and now sort of filtering, as you say, you're seeing it firsthand at Dundee, a transition in basic terms of quality of training and players in the last 10 years. It's been phenomenal. Now, how impressed were you with the academy and its vision? We've kind of covered that now, but I know you were also impressed with Chris McCart. Talk to me about him.
I thought it was, I mean, obviously he worked at Motherwell before.
Yes.
Sorry, I was reading the comments about the red ash pitches. I'm very familiar with the red ash pitches, by the way. I grew up in Hamilton, so I'm very familiar with red ash pitches. Chris McCart was a very good speaker. Quite a clear vision for the academy. It was very holistic. He spoke about, all the right things, developing the person first and then developing the player. And, I very much agree with that. It's hard to get good football players if you can't develop them as people first. Right. You need to develop things like a work rate. You need to develop things like being able to work as a teammate with other people. And he also talked a lot about developing their education, which, I mean, Bhoycie, I work in university. And I think that's very important. And a lot of clubs are doing that now. So I was very, very impressed with that. I thought it was just a very good setup. I will say at Dundee, we're trying to do a lot of these things as well, but on a much smaller budget.
Of course.
But yeah, I was very impressed. I thought it was very clear in what he wanted to produce, how he wanted to produce it, make sure that he was quite realistic as well, mate. Like, he knows that not everyone in the academy is going to play for Celtic's first team. And we know that as academy coaches at any club. But it's a case of the guys coming and getting a positive experience, leaving us better people with better prospects, and ultimately enjoying it as well. So,
well, I think there is a bit of that, yeah. I just wanted to get your thoughts. See, just very interesting what you said there, right? You were saying about how, teaching them the work rate, teaching them, how to be a teammate, things like that. Now, I'm obviously all for that. They should have good application of, if what they're doing, it's a joy to get to play football, albeit it's a tough gig as much as anything else as well. But see, sometimes my concern with where football is going now, I do think it's the players' welfare's got to come into it, and you're trying to create these environments for them and stuff. My concern as an armchair fan, Johnny, right, watching football is, do players all become, though, with all this, do they turn into clones of each other? And will you ever see, let's look at the English Premier League, which is probably a further 10 years ahead with this sort of thing than what Scottish football is, right? But I remember growing up again, Keane Vieira, that battle between those two captains was as much about up there as what it was with what they could do on the pitch. Both fantastic players, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
But they had different streaks to them that I don't think can be taught, and they were allowed to express. Are we now seeing football becoming basically a sport far more based now on who's the better footballer as opposed to the mentality thing, because they're getting so many more lessons now, all the players, that you're going to have 11 sort of, I don't know, like it's going to sort of be, ideally, I suppose that's your goal, is to have 11 guys with the exact same temperament, attitude to training, attitude to the games, the same desire to be a teammate, a good teammate and things like that. I mean, if you do achieve that, really the game of football, I suppose many could argue that's how it should be, will be decided by who's the best 11 is.
Well, it's a good question. I've got what I think is an answer.
Okay.
Feel free to shoot me down, but
no.
Ability without desire is nothing. Is my genuine answer to that. So you've highlighted two guys with great ability.
Of course.
Part of the reason they had great ability, and Keenan Vieira, they did have great ability, but part of the reason they had great ability was because of their desire, because of their work rate. You know, there are so many players that you've seen make it to A level.
Yeah.
Right, make it to A level, but don't make it further than that because of their work rate. And I wouldn't name them, but you can all think of examples. I mean, all the
sure.
guys, you can all think of examples of people who have got somewhere with ability, but to make it to the top level, to win trophies and stuff like that, you need to have desire. You need to have the right character, the right attributes. And you know something, there are guys that actually have a good career and maybe don't have the best ability, but have an unbelievable work rate, an unbelievable character, an unbelievable desire to not lose. And at academy level, I would say, and sorry, I know it's going back to academy level because you were talking about Chris McCart. At academy level, winning isn't the most important thing, right? You're trying to develop players technically in terms of their character and stuff like that as well. But you need to develop a mentality where guys are desperate to improve and desperate to work hard for the team and really put themselves in the line. So yeah, the simple answer is without a desire, without the right character, your ability is worth hee-haw.
I like it, mate. Hee-haw, good choice of word as well. I like that, mate. Right, now we need to talk about the big man. Now, you were on the Thursday, mate, lucky enough to be like pitch side watching Ange's first team train on a Thursday ahead of a Saturday kickoff. The type of thing we would all dream of being able to be seeing such close quarters. Now, Ange regularly speaks about intensity levels, and I know you've touched on it already. How evident was the intensity these boys train at? Because I want to tell you something. See what he actually said on the Friday, the day after you seen them train. He was asked about complacency in the ranks, and he says, anyone who's thinking that any sort of job's done will be left behind. They won't keep up with this group. I don't see any of that. He goes, I don't see any of it. And if they are thinking like that, then they're not telling me about it. They're not displaying it. You see them that Thursday. They're on the back of a Glasgow Derby win that puts them 6 points clear. They're preparing for a game against second bottom St Johnstone. That it'd be easy to think that'll be in the bag. We go 9 points clear. What did you see on Thursday? What attitude did you see from that Celtic team? And of course, Mr. Postecoglou himself.
Well, first, I'll say a couple of things. Right, there was no complacency whatsoever. None whatsoever. I thought it was actually, you made a good point. You said it was a privilege. You said that I was lucky enough, and I would agree with that. I would say it was a privilege to watch. I think watching any first team training as a fan, I mean, first of all, I'm a fan. Obviously, I'm a coach, but
yeah,
I've watched a number of first teams train over the years, and that was really good. Really enjoyed it. It was so intense. Right, the players hardly get a rest. And whenever they were working at 100%. And I'm not using cliches, right?
No.
I understand a lot about sports science. So they were working for like 4 minute spells at a time with a 30-second to a minute rest, but in tight possession boxes. You know what stood out for me, mate, was, you remember there was a certain manager of a certain team in Glasgow who banned tackling in training. He didn't ban training, he didn't go that far, but he banned tackling in training, right? Can you remember the guy that I'm talking about?
No. Was it Advocat?
No, Paul Le Guen.
Paul Le Guen, yeah.
Right, so he famously banned tackling at training. I can assure you, these guys tackle full on at training. The intensity was brilliant. It was like watching wee boys fight for the ball, and I mean that in the best possible way. They just had that pure desire to go and win the ball.
Wow.
Their intensity was good. Can I say one thing though? And it's not an insult. If anything, it's a compliment. The simplicity of it was really good. It was just finish one thing on to the next, and there was no. And I've probably been guilty of it myself as a coach. For example, you do a shooting drill and you do like 4 or 5 passes for it to get to the striker, and then they get a shot, and then you restart it. Nah, it was just one pass on the striker. What can you do about it? How can you finish? So there's plenty of repetition, plenty of reps. The intensity was excellent. That there were maybe 2 players I wasn't impressed with, and that.
Wow.
And I won't say who they were because I
No. That's cool
But-
though. That it's fascinating to think. Ange is obviously, we all know, got a team when what we're seeing on the pitch is brilliant to get that insight that is completely being mirrored on the training ground. Not us speculating on the bus and expecting that to be the case, but you've literally seen it, mate. And they're not going to be putting on a show for you. That is obviously how it is day to day. Who stood out for you in terms of personnel on the training ground? Because, as you say, you're a fan first and foremost. We're not going to say if there was anyone who didn't impress you, but as a fan watching, who was the one that you felt, I've probably watched a bit more of him than anyone else on the training ground today?
Can I be honest? There was more than one. I'm okay to highlight a few.
Yeah, of course.
Juranovic, sensational.
Really?
Yeah. Kyogo. So I watched them 2 days before they played St Johnstone. Right? Kyogo's unreal, mate. Kyogo's unreal. So sharp, so clever. He's maybe not the quickest over 30 yards. See over 5 yards, unbelievable. I thought Maeda, okay, technically not as good as Kyogo.
No.
My God, that guy's an athlete. He just runs after everything. It is nuts. I thought Joe Hart was really good, and Callum McGregor. I mean, you know, I'm a Scotland fan as well, so
of course
I thought Callum McGregor was unreal. Just everything about him, his attitude, his personality, technical ability, work rate. You can see why managers pick him every time.
Yes. Well, let's talk a bit about Callum McGregor. Firstly, how vocal was he on the training ground? Is he that sort of guy? Because I feel anyway, that I think he's really grown into the captain's role at Celtic as the seasons went on. And there was a moment, I don't know if you've seen the meme that was doing the rounds on Twitter where he's, I think it was the game we beat Rangers 3-0. And he's sort of harassing Barisic for the ball. Barisic decides to play a simple safe ball back, and Callum McGregor shouts "shite house" at him, or "shite bag" at him. That's what it was, shite bag. Which Callum McGregor seemed really pumped, seemed very vocal. He then let his football do the talking at Ibrox. I don't know if you watched the game where Celtic were on the ropes, and he just decides to take control of the game, and he beats 2 or 3 players, brought a canvas to Celtic's play. I've said on the bus, see, even if we didn't get a goal for that moment, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered because what he'd done was he'd set the tone. He'd changed the dynamic of the game. He'd reminded his teammates how to play football without having to point and shout and do anything. He let his feet do the talking. What's his demeanour like on the training ground from obviously the snapshot that you've seen?
Brilliant. I mean, people think a captain has to scream, shout, point, be angry all the time. That's just not true. There's lots of different people can be captains. You know, I think you highlighted one word, a calmness. He is calm. He seemed to have, I don't know him, obviously, but he seemed to have a very good manner with the rest of the team. Very motivational, smiling a lot. I know you might think these things are menial or trivial things, but they're not. They're actually very important. You know, for keeping the morale, keeping everyone on side. And yeah, you can have a player like, I'll highlight, I don't know this guy either, but Scott Brown, right? You can see he's a very different character to Callum McGregor. And that's fine. Scott Brown was an excellent captain. That doesn't mean that every captain has to be in the mould of Scott Brown.
No, absolutely not.
You know,
absolutely not.
I could see why he's picked him as a captain. He seems to get on well with everyone. He's got a very good manner with everyone. People respond to him, and that's the most important thing. So, and if you're a leader in any walk of life, the whole point of being a leader is to get a response from people and getting working towards a specific goal. And it's quite clear that he does that. So, for me, there's no doubt about his ability to be a captain.
It's interesting what you said as well. You'd said that you're a Scotland fan, and it's no surprise to you why Callum McGregor plays on his pitch week in, week out, whether it be under the various managers since Ronnie Deila at Celtic, or whether it be under the last couple of managers at Scotland level. I think Callum McGregor is thriving because the standards at Celtic have went up. I think Callum McGregor dipped last year and it was in tandem with standards dropping all around him. I think players had checked out. I'm not making excuses for not winning the league. It's not like that. But there's many factors that play a part in Celtic falling off a cliff. Celtic, you know, and obviously you have to pay a wee bit of credit to your rivals as well, but not too much. But we do. Now, I think you've got to, when you look within yourself, though, what mitigating factors were at stake? A lot of players had checked out. The standard that was getting brought in, I don't think was high enough. Particularly, you know, like the goalkeeper, Shane Duffy had the worst season of his career, albeit he's pulling up trees again now at Brighton, funnily enough. Laxalt was bang average. I think there was a lot of players that I don't think Callum McGregor was rising to the challenge. I think Celtic's brought in quality in the likes of Kyogo, and I think Callum McGregor excels. The better a player he's playing with, the better he becomes. Out at Scotland level, you were talking earlier about the standard of that Scotland team. Now, I remember growing up, and you'll be the same as me, Johnny, it was very much Celtic and Rangers players were the sort of peak that you could get in that team. Maybe the odd Leicester City player or someone from the English Championship, stuff like that. Chris Willamo
James McFadden. Come on, give Faddy a bit of credit. Motherwell's finest, eh?
That's true, mate. That's true. But, you know, you were looking at it then. Now it's Celtic players, you know, that are competing with Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, all in the one squad. And yet, as you said, Callum McGregor is picked every single Scotland game possible.
Do you know what it is, right? And I don't mean this in any disrespect to Scottish football at all. I think Callum McGregor could play at any level.
Yeah.
Seriously. And I think, you know, if you're a central midfielder, particularly somebody who likes to get on the ball as much as he does, your ability is dictated, at least to some degree, by people around you. You know, if you put, right, favourite midfielder I loved watching in my life was Zinedine Zidane, right?
Yep.
If you put Zinedine Zidane at, I don't know, any Scottish team out with the Old Firm, right?
Yep.
Let's just be as vague as that. If you put Zinedine Zidane at any Scottish team out with the Old Firm in his prime, is Zinedine Zidane going to win Player of the Year in Scotland? Probably not, because he's not going to get people making the runs off him. I mean, he'd still be very good. He'd still probably be the best player in that team by a country mile. But, you know, if you're a midfielder and people aren't making the runs, people aren't tracking back to help you, then of course you're not going to look as good. And that's probably what you saw. That's probably what you saw with McGregor last year.
I think so.
That's probably what you saw with McGregor last year, because for me, his effort was never in question. Whenever he pulled on a Scotland jersey last season, I thought he was very good.
Yeah, that's interesting as well.
Because a lot of people were saying last year, "Oh, McGregor's not playing well for Celtic, so he shouldn't be playing for Scotland." But whenever he put on a Scotland jersey, he was excellent. And the reason was he was playing with guys like McGinn, McTominay, Armstrong, and then to a later extent Gilmore. Right? These are all top quality players, you know. And now that there's top quality round about him at Celtic, he's playing well again. So for me, that's the answer. Yeah,
I agree with that. I think Ange Postecoglou's brought out the very best in him as well. But I think you're right. I think if it hadn't been, you know, necessarily Postecoglou, as long as it was a manager of that ilk, bringing in players of the standard that Ange has had such an amazing strike rate, by the way, in the transfer market. We've spoke about that on the bus numerous times. It's a phenomenal strike rate he's had with his recruitment. It's frightening. And I think better players like playing with better players, and Callum McGregor's been a prime example of that. Now, we will get on to Ange Postecoglou in focus, because, Johnny, you were lucky enough after that. It was lunch at Celtic Park. What did you make for lunch? What did you have? What was on the menu for lunch?
Lunch? What was lunch? It was actually all right, aye. It was good.
Lunch, I think, before a game recently.
I think for lunch... no. Lunch was bang average, to be fair. Lunch was... dinner was really good on the Thursday.
Dinner was good. Right,
the lunch was a tuna and red onion sandwich. It was on nice bread. It was flavoured enough. It was bang average. But
it was bang average, mate.
Very welcoming.
Everyone reeking, mate.
Aye, I was being nice, mate. But the dinner was actually cracking, but the lunch was bang average. So
No.
you were asking me about Postecoglou
Yes.
in the sort of Q&A?
Yeah, so basically, obviously, talk to us about what happened then, because I've obviously got the wee flyer that you sort of sent us. So has he done like a
Yeah.
sort of presentation with like a PowerPoint behind him or something, and then opened it up to Q&A? Or
Yeah.
is that how it went?
Yeah. So he did it using one of the magic TVs that you can draw the shapes on and stuff like that. So it was very impressive. I think
Right.
that maybe took half an hour. He was able to get across his philosophy very clearly to all the coaches in the room in half an hour, and it made perfect sense. And
Right.
the tactical stuff was good, right? The tactical stuff's really good. What came across to me more was, and I think this is important for all coaches, is doesn't matter how good you are tactically, technically, physically, whatever, unless you can get people to believe in what you're telling them to do, it doesn't matter. And he definitely can. He's a very, very likable guy. I don't mean that he's laughing, telling jokes all the time. I just mean very humble, very good manner. You know,
engaging. Would that be a good word to use?
100%. And I would say as well,
Aye.
very, you see him in interviews and he appears very relaxed. Yes. He just, he's the sort of guy who, if I was a player in that dressing room and I don't possess the technical, tactical, physical attributes to be that in that dressing room, but if I was, would I follow that guy into battle? Absolutely.
That's class. That is good to know. And like you say, remember, everything that's coming from Jonny right now, Jonny works for Dundee. He is a Motherwell fan. This is not Celtic sugar-coated Ange Lovins that we're getting told here. This is just the realities of how it was. So he talked obviously a bit about tactics. See, when it comes to these tactical sort of setup now, I'm not one. We were all panicking right at the start of the season when we thought we'd seen what he meant by inverted fullbacks and overloads. And we all were getting, I think, a wee bit of the fear. Some were saying they were calm and all that, but I don't really believe Celtic fans get like that. I think we all panic if we lose 2 games in a row, let alone 3 out of the first 6 in the league. I think we panic, right? So when he was talking, one of the things you said at the start of the show was about simplicity.
Yeah.
Was his tactics, whether they might be hard to execute or anything, you said also that he was getting his message across very quickly. He only spoke for half an hour before the Q&A. Now, he's managed to get his whole philosophy over in that time. See, tactically, does he manage to get over what is maybe a very clever tactic? Maybe it's not. Does he get that over, though, in a simple enough term that you can go, I know exactly what you're trying to do there. That makes sense.
Aye, did I? I thought it was, sorry. I thought it was, I think, he's not the guy that invented inverted fullbacks. What I will say is he's the guy who has allowed players to play at inverted fullback really for the first time in Scotland. So, aye, it was very clear. I mean, it's just all about creating a numerical advantage in the middle of the pitch. That's why they do it. Yep. It's the same as why, for example, Guardiola did it at Man City, at Barcelona. Other managers have done it as well. But to be fair, no one's ever really done it in Scottish football. So fair play to him, because it's a tough environment to test out tactical new ideas.
Did he talk about the fact that obviously Ange, from what I've seen, and I've watched, I'm not exaggerating, like tens upon tens of hours of footage now as the seasons went on, because you've got to watch the sort of media conference in full before you do a show. If, like, say we do a Friday show quite a lot, Jonny, and if Ange is doing a presser, which he tends to do on a Friday, you watch the full 25 minutes of it. If he does any sort of other interview, whether it be with Australian media or Open Goal, whoever it may be, you watch all of that as well, right? You can't get enough of him. All his post-match interviews, whether it be on Celtic TV, the radio one he gives to BBC and Clyde One, then his sports scene one. You're watching all of them as well, right? Sky Sports, you're watching all of them. So the amount of content I've seen about it, and he said, I've lost what I was trying to say because I was trying to remember all those media outlets there. But he had said the thing is about his tactic is he believes it's the best, gives his team the best chance to win the game. Therefore, why would he sacrifice it or change it at any point in the game if that would mean he didn't believe at some point it was the best way to win a game? Is there any stubbornness in that? Or do managers need to have a bit of that sort of conviction of their beliefs to make it?
You can make an argument either way, mate. But for me, if you're a manager and you don't believe in what you're asking your players to do, then it's a bit of a con. It was very clear that he believes in what he's asking his players to do. It's very clear that he believes it's the right way, that he wants to see the game played, the way that he thinks his team's going to be successful. So for me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'd imagine you're talking about games like when you're maybe going away to someone like a Bayer Leverkusen, a good team, and then you say, we'll sit in, we'll change your style of play a wee bit here. But he doesn't believe in that. So if he doesn't believe in it, how can he convince a group of 11 first-team players, first 4 or 5 subs to do that? He can't. So he'd rather go down having a bash and playing the way he wants to play than sitting back and trying to draw. In fact, he said effectively that when we were there. He did, aye. And I respect that. I do. I respect that.
Well, I think the one thing we can all say, Johnny, right? If the season had carried on, I mean, it didn't. Ange was right. I was wrong. Love that, right? But if the season had carried on and we'd got to 18 games played, 9 wins, 9 defeats, right? See, the one thing Ange would be able to do when he looked in the mirror when he got his P45, he would have been able to say, well, it didn't work, but I did it my way. I didn't try and replicate what Brendan Rodgers did 3 years ago. I didn't try and do something to appease the fans. I didn't hoof it because we were playing Dundee away and then we still don't get the result. I could have lost my job today having not been me. And I think there's 2 sides to it though as well, because not one man's bigger than the club either. But I also think that manager has to have that sort of belief in his convictions if, in Ange Postecoglou's case, he's going to convince well-established Celtic players with medals falling out their shorts, as well as an influx of 12 new players to Celtic, all from different corners of the globe that have never played in Scotland before. You've got to have, and remember, he did it without any appointed backroom staff at all. He's had to do that. Obviously, I'm not saying he's done it all on his own. I think the assistance they all have had from the coaches will have been absolutely ample for Ange. But to convey a brand new message, he was having to convey it to John Kennedy, Strachan and all that as well, for it to then be relayed to the team, for it then to be getting seen in the B team, like you were saying mirrors there. I mean, to have turned all this around and to have managed to achieve all this, not that any trophies won yet other than the League Cup, of course, but when you consider that it was only in late June, July that he was appointed, I mean, it's quite frightening to think that, as you've said already, Johnny, first time we've seen that style of football in Scottish football. Yeah? First time we've seen it. The nightmare start he had, the turnaround now, the fact the B team are mirroring how the first team are playing, so the integration is right, the influx of new signings. I just can't get my head around how he's managed to do it in such a short time. And would you, as a coach, expect the ideas to be being implemented so effectively so quickly?
No.
He's ahead of schedule is what I was trying to say there.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that, mate. I would probably agree with that. I'd say you're sort of accelerated over sort of October, November time. I think it took a couple of months for things to bed in. I saw the David Turnbull playing for Celtic that I saw playing for Motherwell, for example. I know some of your guys are probably going to laugh at that, but it's fine. I thought it took a bit of time for these ideas to bed in, for players to become comfortable with it. And once the players buy into it, and you've got a group of, let's say, Celtic squad now is sitting about 26, 27 bodies. Yeah. Even if you've got 20 of them fully buying into that and really thinking, I want to play football for this team. I want to score goals in this team. I want to be part of a team that passes out from the back. I want to be a fullback that can go in the pitch.
Mhm.
You know, you've got to think, why do players play football to begin with, to start? The simple reason is because it's fun, right? You've played football, I've played football.
Mhm.
The reason we want to play football is because it's fun. You want to play football, you want to get a touch of the ball, you want to score goals, you want to have lots of the ball. His way of playing kind of ticks all those boxes. You know, I don't know any players that really like to. I mean, I know managers can be effective in doing it, and I've probably been. I wouldn't say I've really done it at academy level, but I've done it at a more senior level, where you maybe set up a team to defend a lot. It's not fun to play in.
No.
You know, I've been a lone striker in a 4-5-1. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. So you don't really get that there. You get players that really want to play in that system, that style of play. And, you know, once you get happy players and motivated players, you're onto a winner.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and as long as the message is clear, I think it's good.
Now,
So, sorry if that's too simplistic an
no,
answer.
no,
But I think happy players is good.
I think you see that. I think Celtic's managed to create a real sort of family environment right now. I think the team are all bonding all the time, and there's a real positive vibe. And I think you're absolutely right. Happy players, that's how it comes across, because they're all got the freedom to express themselves. They're all playing the type of football, as you rightfully point out, you grow up wanting to play. You play football because you want to be excited by it. You want to have fun. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I've got one more question to ask you, Johnny. This has been brilliant chat, by the way. There's been loads of positive comments coming in for your appearance, by the way. So I appreciate it, mate.
Bhoycie, can I just
Go
say,
on.
I just saw Brown Warriors question. Is there any truth in the rumour Keith Lasley once put his granny out of commission for 3 months with a knee-high scissors tackle at a family barbecue? I don't know, but I watched Keith Lasley play for about 15 years. That could have happened.
That's brilliant. One of the better comments earlier was good call. I got told good call getting Craig Gordon on, Bhoycie.
Mate, I've heard that before. I've heard Craig Gordon, and I've heard what was the other one that I saw earlier. It was I was a Rangers fan that couldn't afford the bus fare. That was funny.
That's good, pal. Final question. Celtic are obviously playing Rangers on Sunday. Now, the news is filtering through. That game has gone to extra time. Another half an hour on the legs. Whether they win, whether they don't, it's kind of irrelevant to me. Another half hour of European football, based on what you've seen, a week ago today at first team. Is that the worst possible scenario for Rangers? Having to have played 120 minutes of football before facing this sort of pressing Celtic side?
Probably, eh? I mean, they don't have Morelos. I don't think he's back.
No, he's not. He's out for the season.
Nah, he's done. I watched the first half before I was on here. They should have been out of sight, but they're not. And they're, of course, it's going to be a problem because they're going to have 30 minutes of high intensity running. Sorry, I'm going to go physiological
That's
here.
All right.
They've got 30 minutes of high intensity running. When they're already fatigued, they're going to need more rest. So I'd imagine if they're going to train before Sunday, it would be very, very light. So they can't match the same levels, probably. So, a simple answer is it can't be good for them.
No, you wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think so. I mean, we watched Maeda, against St Johnstone. I thought he was unbelievable. But even at Ibrox, I felt that he was such a pest. A couple of times, I mean, the first half Celtic I didn't think were always at their best. But even then, the clear-cut chances did fall our way. And I think guys like Maeda will be sitting there seeing them having to do another 30 minutes of, as you say, high-intensity running, already fatigued. And they will be licking their lips at that prospect. It is going to be a fun time on Sunday. The Bhoycie bus, though, will be back tomorrow night. We've got the Double Doon show. The Punk Duck Warlord, who's done a lot of our artwork over the past 6 months, is joining me. I'm really looking forward to speaking with Liam. Never met him yet, so really looking forward to that one. Then Saturday, I don't know. I might come on for a bit and play Championship Manager sign if I'm bored. Why not? Sunday.
Best game ever.
You know it, mate. You know it. We used to talk about it all the time.
Yeah, love it.
With Sunday morning, We're going to have another blether with Regan Stevenson. He will be hosting. I will be his guest on Sunday morning. We will obviously make it just a sort of preview show to the Rangers game. Remember, Regan's going to be on every Sunday around brunch time to be, just talking all things Celtic every week. And then we will be doing post-match, hopefully party bus, Mark II. Now, we had our most viewed show ever a week past Sunday, 6.2 thousand views it's had, and we had about 7 of us on the Bhoycie bus after the game celebrating. I am trying to bring in the troops again and see if we can maybe get another 6 or 7 guests on it again and have a good laugh. So Sunday will be a busy day for the bus. But finally, big thanks to fanboyfootball.com as well. Our sponsors, the t-shirts are selling really, really well. Grab one if you've not got one. If you like them, that is. If you don't like them, that's absolutely fine. And Jonny, what a guest. That was outstanding. We will need to do this again sometime because the insight is definitely there, mate. And I think just from a coach's point of view, you did sort of raise the intelligence levels of the conversation at times there, mate. And folk can't get enough of that just now. So we'll definitely speak again, my man. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, mate. A pleasure. All the best to all your guests as well.
No worries, mate. I'll see you later. Cheers now.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.